MV Realty has been barred from doing business in North Carolina. Now, if the brokerage name MV Realty rings a bell, or you feel like you've heard it in the past, well, you are not mishearing things and you're not thinking incorrectly. You have heard about it, and for the past several months, at least their business practice has been in the limelight, not only from a state level, various states, by the way, but from a national level. So it is the brokerage that would get exclusive listing agreements for 40 years. So let's read in, see what ultimately did them in, at least for North Carolina. There are operational in other places, but North Carolina has said, I have had enough. It is time to get you out of our state. So let's see what we have going on. Now, this particular article, we're going to start with Inman. So kudos to Inman for shedding some additional light and highlighting this particular news story, because it's been undercovered for the longest time, or underreported for the longest time. Brokerage firm MV Realty has been barred from North Carolina. MV Realty was under scrutiny for deceiving homeowners in financial distress into signing exclusive listing agreements that lasted 40 years, 40 years, in exchange for cash. Now, we'll talk about the model once we get to a complaint by the Attorney General, Josh Stein, and then we'll also look at the landing page that they use to market their particular program. The Home Benefits Program, I believe, is what they call it. I have no idea how to say this. Beleaguered. We're gonna go on. Real estate brokerage has been barred from operating in North Carolina after it became the subject of media and state investigations that found its services amounted to fraud and deception. According to WTVD Channel 11, a state real estate commission has stripped MV Realty of its ability to conduct business in the state. So North Carolina has said, I have had enough. So Attorney General is the one that brought in a suit to MV Realty. Now, MV Realty was asked to pause their operations last year already. So let's go to the rest is gonna actually be covered better here in the complaint, or in the release that Attorney General Josh Stein put out into the world. So this is something that this was the original one. Now, this was what kicked everything off, but it wasn't until recently that North Carolina has essentially booted MV Realty from doing what they're doing. All right, so Attorney General Josh Stein today filed a lawsuit against, again, this began in 2023, at least the lawsuit component, but it's just now to the point where MV Realty has stopped doing business. So what they're alleging is against real estate brokerage, MV Realty and the company's leaders, alleging that they violated North Carolina's laws prohibiting unfair and deceptive practices, or usurious. I'm struggling with words today. Lending, abusive telephone solicitation practices, and unfair debt collection practices by tricking homeowners into signing oppressive 40-year real estate agreements. Again, you heard that right. Now, what was very impressive, but just by the sheer size of it, was this, at least for me. MV Realty started operating in North Carolina in August of 2020. So keep in mind, by the time that they were asked to stop, or this suit comes out, is you're looking at 3 years. And in 3 years, they had 21 Carolinians. They had 700 customers per year. Wow. Under their homeowner benefit program. That is insane. Now, nationally, MV Realty has signed up more than 32,000 homeowners. So imagine having over those 32 options to sell their home, essentially, is what they are. There are contracts, of course. They're legally binding. They have they exchanged monetary value and made it a full-fledged contract. Now, is it legal or not? That's for the attorneys to kind of hash it out. But as far as we're seeing this has just been a different way of either doing lead generation, you can call that. That's a lead generation strategy. You're paying for the option to sell their house, or you're paying them for paying up front and factoring in what it's ultimately going to cost you for lead gen, if you want to see it that way. Or you could see this as a financial instrument at the end of the day, where you could see it in that regard. Their MV Realty, I keep wanting to say MVP. MV Realty is paying for the option to sell their house later, which really it's not an option, it's a contract. So it's not really truly a financial instrument, but has a few. It smells a little bit like an option. It feels more like it smells a little bit like a call option if you're familiar with trading. Now, MV Real. So essentially, how the program works. Let me show you what they end up promoting. Their homeowner benefit program. They're saying that hey, it's you don't have the obligation to sell your home. It's not a loan. Essentially, they're giving you cash. There's no credit check. That seems like an interesting that seems like an interesting thing to say. No need to make payments. No regrets, 3-day right to rescind. So essentially you sign and then you get a 3-day grace period of, hey, I changed my mind. And a 40-year agreement. So it's a long-term relationship. So when you sign the homeowner benefit agreement, a memorandum will be filed in the county where the property is located. The purpose of this memorandum is to serve public notice of the homeowner's obligations under. So essentially that is letting them know there is going to be a lien at the end of the day, or a makings of a lien. In the event you sell your home without an agent or with another brokerage, you will owe a termination fee equal to the amount of the commission. So once they lock in that particular home for $300 to $5,000 in cash, come heck or high water, if that property changes title, it won't because it's got a lien, so they have to clear the lien first. Once that happens, even if you decide to use your cousin, or even if you decide to sell it yourself, you are still responsible for that commission. Now, I do not have my hands on, this would be pretty cool to have. So if you happen to have a homeowner benefit program, I would just be interested in seeing what a contract like that looks like. I'm sure it has a lot of stipulations on pricing and how that's going to be handled. Of course, it's going to have the percentages and how much they're charging the homeowners for the right to sell, because you're not going to hand out $300 to $5,000 in cash for the right to sell the property, because you're talking about a lot of money. So even on the low end, if you do $300 just in North Carolina alone, if you do $300 for the 2,100 clients that they secured, that's $630,000 in upfront cash. So someone has to be funding this. There has to be a check out there. Like somebody is writing these checks. So either they raise some money to operate this model, or they are independently wealthy and are able to fund this, or they are able to sell the house pretty quickly. It ultimately doesn't get to the 40 years, obviously. So I don't know what financial model that they ended up using, or how they ended up calculating what this particular structure. It is fascinating. I think it's a radically different way to do real estate. But them being actually kicked out of a state, that's a huge deal. That's something that North Carolina ended up passing a law actually that explicitly calls this out, and that's why they were able to boot them out of the state altogether. Now let me go back here, make sure that I covered all the points that we needed to cover. Bum, 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 bum. A judge overseeing the case issued a temporary injunction before the Real Estate Commission permanently revoked MV Realty's ability to do business in the state. Yeah, no, I think we got it all covered. So again, MV Realty, it is operational in other states right now. I believe it actually was started in Florida altogether. So it is still operating in Florida. This is where I got the actual the landing page for this particular program. But at the end of the day, again, MV Realty is no longer in North Carolina. So if you're an agent that has worked for MV Realty and are in North Carolina, I'd be interested in speaking with you and having a conversation. I would love to broadcast that here in the channel and in Agent Daily News. I think it'd just be an interesting conversation to see kind of what the insides look like of this particular brokerage, and really share more the inner workings, because of course this can be a very salacious topic. This is a very salacious topic, or else we wouldn't be covering it. But it can be seen as from the court of public opinion, it just doesn't look good for real estate agents. So I'd just be curious to see the other side of the equation, right? So we have the regulators here, we have politicians, we have the court of public opinion. Really doesn't look very favorably for the model that MV Realty has created. So I'm curious to see what the actual justification or just more presenting the other side would look like. I think that would be a little bit better in terms of help us understand how it came to be, what it's really about. So I'd be curious again if you're part of or were a part of MV Realty in North Carolina or in other states that is operating this model. I'd be curious to have a conversation with you, and we could broadcast it here just to have a conversation. All right, well, hope you have a fantastic day. I will see y'all tomorrow.